Couple of more terms related to value. When you're adding white, you're tinting, despite what the dude bro from your high school said they did to his car. Tinting is to make it lighter. You shade to make it darker. And then toning is how you affect the intensity. There are essentially two standard ways to affect the intensity, the purity of a color. One is to add gray, and the other is to add the complement. The complement will lower the intensity, but because of subtractive color mixing, you're also going to get a lot of other side effects that happen as well. So when you add red to your green, you don't just make a grayer green, you make a browner green, and it's going to change the temperature as well as the intensity and the value. So that's our segue into a conversation about intensity. Again, remember, some people are going to call that saturation, purity, brightness, chroma. We can agree on nothing. When we're thinking about intensity, it is very easy to confuse intensity, the purity of the color, the brightness of the color, with value. In fact, a lot of times people will refer to a light value color as being brighter, when really it is lighter in value. Because if we add white to something, we are almost always not only raising the value, we're also lowering the intensity. We're diluting the amount of whatever color that is. So if I have a light blue, it is going to be both lighter in value, but also lower in intensity because I've dispersed the blue amongst all that white. We tend to think of intensity as about the purity of the color, and it is, but we also want to make sure that we're thinking about the way in which in subtractive color mixing, intensity is going to be affected even if I'm trying to affect the other two properties of color. Every time I make a change to value, I'm likely also changing the intensity. Every time I make a change to temperature, I'm likely also affecting the intensity. So we're going to see that these are all kind of bundled up together when we're dealing with subtractive color mixing, especially when we consider an important thing that we don't always think about. Our white pigment, our white paint, is not actually white. It's a really, 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 really light blue. And so one of the things that you want to keep an eye on when you're trying to work with the paints that are in our kit is that if I am adding white, I'm probably also lowering the temperature. So you want to keep an eye on whether or not maybe it would actually be better to use chromatic value and to have a yellow that you add to make something red lighter so that you don't lose intensity quite as much. To sum up the properties of color, we're going to point you in the direction of the Munsell color system, which is to change the color wheel into a color sphere. So we're thinking about it as a ball of color in 3 dimensions. We go around for our hue categories, and that's how we affect temperature. We go up and down for the values on a scale from white to black. And then because it's a sphere, we're going to think about going in and out for intensity. What we have then is the brighter colors are further out, and as we approach the center column of grays, we lose intensity. So that way, in addition to thinking about the hue categories of the color wheel, we're going to have the volume of a color sphere.